a gem to me, because just like all of us that's a little older, we have met each other throughout our paths. We keep crossing paths and going through paths. So me and Marc both was in radio. He was in radio way before me. So when Marc was on the Big Fat Morning Show, when he left the Big Fat Morning Show, I told him that I was going to get my own radio show, because Big Fat Morning Show, Oprah, nobody never called me. Nobody even called me up, guys. They wouldn't call me up. So I told Marc, I said, Marc, you know, you can just go pay and be on the radio. He said, I'm not doing that. I'm Marc Clarke. I'm going to go and see if somebody else is going to hire me. So he went off and did bigger and better things. But then he came back about 2 months ago, and he sat in the back and he talked to me. He says, Eartha, I want to do something with you, because I now understand, like you said, that you always kept telling me, come on, Marc, come do stuff with me. So he was really passionate enough to say he had a vision about motivational Mondays. Why? Because of the guests that we have, we don't hear ourselves, we don't identify ourselves as solutions for our own problems. Because we don't control media, we don't have this great media platform. So with his wonderful name, Marc Clarke, I use it to bring beautiful, wonderful people here to the tight-knit place. So we have had several guests come through. I like the fact that he even had politicians come through. We just had Conan come through. We had so many people come through. So today you're going to get a treat, because usually we have a balance of a man and a woman. But because we're just so powerful, we just had to double up on y'all today. So today you're going to have two powerful women. And I mean, I'm not bragging. If you miss this, you're going to miss a lot. Two powerful women here today. So the survey that you're filling out is complimentary of our second guest, Mrs. Jones. And you can fill that out, just give it to Janie or give it to me. But see if Marc is ready. Marc, you ready?
Yes, we're ready.
So you ready? Ready? Okay. So sit back, and as they say, sit back and enjoy.
All right. Go ahead, Eartha. Go ahead, let me find out. Go ahead, Eartha. We are growing, and thanks again, Eartha, for that. And again, don't forget to support our vendors. We're working hard, and I'm telling you, as a wannabe, trying to be entrepreneur, you know, I respect entrepreneurs so much, because that grind is something else. You got it? Okay, good. That grind is something else. So give it up for all the entrepreneurs in the building. Make some noise that you are an entrepreneur. I totally get it now. I get it. Y'all, every day is a new day. What have you done for me lately? And so we're really excited about this. And again, Eartha has put together this amazing facility. It started with a dream, and like Eartha said, this is 6 months. And each week we've had, you know, just a special moment thanks to you guys. You know, I don't know what it is about the spirit. I said it was Eartha. I said it's just a combination of people, but each week we just had special moments. And so tonight's no different. We have Dr. Monifa Jones is going to be speaking. Give her some love. She'll be sharing her. And right now we have the amazing Marissa Stone Bass in the building. Give her some love. Superstars. I'm talking these young ladies. This is the thing. It's like when the kids say we got receipts. Marissa got so many receipts, we don't know where to start. I was like, okay, you can talk about this, or we can talk about this, or talk about real estate, we can talk about community, we can talk about the awards. But I was saying this is the first time Marissa's had a chance to hang out. So Marissa, really is just, like I said, it's like Big Mama's house when her friends come over. And they be like, well, baby, who are you? And so we get a chance to find out. Again, you've done so many things. And the reason we really wanted to start this was to have people that we know for their accomplishments, to see hear the other side, because we know there's struggle, there's joy, there's drive, and so once again, welcome to Motivating Monday. And so let's start at the beginning. Let's start back, in your younger years. Were you born here? Were you born? And give us a little background.
Okay, I am the daughter of a military family. My mother and father were born and raised in Baltimore City. This is where my grandparents hailed. My parents are resting at Arbutus, historically black cemetery in Baltimore. You know, I learned after my father passed in 2017 that there was actually a Horsemen's Federation section in Arbutus, and my father's grandfather, my father's father, was a horseman, right, that hailed from Kentucky, and they came here back in the day, and I think they moved to Howard County, Laurel, out there with the Laurel racetrack, because, you know, racing is a huge business. But yeah, so I grew up in the DC area. My father was career military. He did 28 years in the Air Force, and we lived on Andrews Air Force Base for many years. But I came to Baltimore every weekend because this is where my people were. So my mother was coming, you know, my mother and father were coming home. So I have this duality, you know. I own that I grew up in the DMV, but I'm also Baltimore bred, right? So I have a duality. You know how it is. You know, Baltimore people be talking stuff about DC people, and DC people be talking stuff about Baltimore people. I'd be like, wait a minute, because I bang for Baltimore.
That's right.
And so, yeah, so I, you know, I grew up on Andrews Air Force Base, which is, you know, back in the day was, you know, very much a white, you know, community, a very artificial. Anybody that's lived on a base, on military installation, you know, understand that that's a very power base, especially, you know, back in the day when my father went into the military. It said on his DD-214 that he was a colored man. Let's not get it twisted, right? And so, you know, to understand that when you're growing up, you know, I was in a white environment, the only black kid in the class, oftentimes, right? And I wasn't treated well. You know, even when you are a kid, you understand when someone's treating you differently, right? It doesn't have to be spelled out. But I thank God for my mother. You know, your parents give you your first introduction to political position, right? Not only your moral compass, your spiritual compass. And my mother was very clear. I was so happy that, you know, my mother grew up. She was born in the 1930s, a dark-skinned woman in Baltimore. You know, she was real clear about some things in terms of, you know, our own pain, you know, as it relates to stuff that, you know, we don't always talk about. That's very present in our communities and our families. And so I remember, you know, growing up and coming to Baltimore, and I grew up, you know, my family lived on Bonner Road over by Liberty Heights. What? And so, you know, it was like crippling for me because I would leave the sterile environment and come to Baltimore because we were doing stuff that it was not going down in my father's house, okay? We would go to Odell's after the club, right? We would like, my cousin would bring people home and be cooking breakfast. I would be like, oh my God. That's how we roll in here. So I loved coming to Baltimore because in Marissa's house, when you came from a party, you was not cracking no pots and pans out, right? He would tell you to eat where you were. And so, you know, you come from this place where, you know, very white, you know, very power driven, you know, it was, you know, very clear about this institution. Then I had this duality of coming and understanding the urban context, right? And so this was back in the day when busing happened. How many people here remember busing, right? This was back when busing, so I got bused from the white school to the black school, okay? And so the black kids didn't like the white kids, and so I came with the white kids, and they was totally confused about how to handle me. So of course they didn't like me. So I had to learn how to survive early and what I call these out-group dynamics, right? And understanding. But, you know, the thing is, you know, growing up and coming to Baltimore, you know, we played in the streets. You know, West Baltimore was a working class community. Right, you know, I remember that house on Bonner Road was a beautiful house. It was a huge brownstone where we, you know, operated as community. And then, you know, I myself experienced, you know, in the 80s, you know, the crack epidemic. I saw with my own two eyes, my friends and my family, I'm of that era, right, that was getting cracked out. And I started seeing the communities in which, you know, I grew up, my cousins did hair at Pittman's on North Avenue, right? And, you know, we walked up and down North Avenue. We walked, I remember when James Brown radio station was there right on that corner, right? And those were like safe communities. They were our communities. And I saw those communities, digress. Before my very, I would, ride down North Avenue and see my cousins, 80 pounds soaking wet, talking about, Tita, can I get $3? It was a trauma event for me, right? To understand that, the folks and the people that I know and love and I grew up with, that this turn, started happening, right? And so, after my father retired, when I graduated from high school, I didn't take the route, because my mother put me out at 15. I was doing a whole lot, was doing a few things, right? My mother was like, oh, no, not here. And I was, one of these people that I was like, well, I'm still not getting pregnant and I'm still going to do what I'm supposed to do, even though I'm doing what I want to do, right? So I didn't go to college after school, after high school. I barely got out of high school, right? And so I was, my mother used to tell me that if you could type, you will always have a job, right? And I remember in 7th grade, I took shorthand and I took typing. And I could type like 100 some words a minute, right? So I had a skill when I was a teenager. When I graduated from high school, I went to work downtown DC. I got a house. I was like, go to college for what? Right? I was like 18, making 18,000. In 1979, that was a lot of money, right, for a young person. And so, I said it to say, because I grew up with a brother who had a traumatic brain injury. And back in the day, we don't have the knowledge about disabilities that we do today. But what I saw that she was always an advocate for herself. So indirectly, she didn't even realize she was teaching me, advocacy. She was teaching me the understanding. I remember she said, we would, come here and we would have to say yes, sir, and no, ma'am to our grandparents. And, when we were on base, she would say, I don't want you telling these white people yes, sir, or no, ma'am. We say yes or no. And so she was clear early on, like, what her social positioning was going to be for her children. And so that kind of stuff, you start incorporating it. You know what I mean? It becomes infused in you, and without even knowing it. And so, when I got out into the work world, I started working, in disabilities, working with people with disabilities because, it was something that I understand. And most people that work in the human services are doing so as a result of some type of painful problem that they've experienced themselves. And that's real talk, right? And so I worked in group homes, et cetera, I worked in shelters, and I really loved what I did. But as I started moving up, if you will, in those kinds of positions, I didn't have a degree, right? And it really was an impediment for me. It was an impediment. And I took a job, I was doing admin work, and I remember the supervisor came to me one day, and she wanted to try me in a position of doing job development, basically selling jobs for people with disabilities. And she said, I said, well, I don't have a degree. And she said, you can sell ice cubes to Eskimos. I'm going to try you in this position, right? And so I was like, okay, let's go. And when I was working at a shelter, I worked at a women's shelter for years and ran, programs there. At the same time, I was working at this place, finding jobs for people with disabilities. Like I had 2 full-time jobs, basically. A friend of mine said to me, Lincoln University has a program that they will take your portfolio, your work experience, and couple it into access into their master's program. And so I was like, oh, okay. And I really didn't do anything about it, And I remember he came to me like a few months later. He said, did you ever send that application that I gave you? And I was like, no, I did not. And so he said, I'm coming over your house and we're going to do this application. And so we did the application, and I wasn't even taking this serious. I thought he was trying to, to go and do a comment. You know what I mean? I was like, yeah, okay. So I did the application, and guess what? Lincoln University accepted me provisionally into their Master's of Human Services.
Did I just break the thing?
I'm wondering, your laptop is out?
No, it was off. Oh, wow.
Check one, two. Okay.
So,
Is your mic still on?
yes, my mic is on.
Applause. That was great.
So I got into the program. And I was really scared because, you know, I was like, I wasn't even paying attention in high school. I don't even know how I got through high school. So I'm like, they got me in this master's program. And you know, there's a term that people use, you've heard before, imposter syndrome, right? Because I really felt like they're going to find out. They got me up in here, I'm parading like they don't even know. Like I'm looking at these people like I'm up in here for real. And I will never forget there, you know, at Lincoln, we're talking about the historic, the first, even though Change will be saying it the first. Lincoln University is the first institution that serves degrees for people of African descent. You know, we had Storer College, you know, back in Harper's Ferry during the Niagara movement, but Lincoln University. So, you know, you had, you know, people like Thurgood Marshall and Kwame Nkrumah. You had a lot of race that came out of Lincoln, and you felt it when you went there. And I will never forget my first day. You know, one of the things that they said in our, you know, orientation, they said that you are not prepared to make change in your organization or community, this is not the place for you to be. And I think how powerful it was that Lincoln held me to that. Like, and so when I was at Lincoln, I was working in disability services, and I started seeing, you know, what we call, the language for it is inequity, right? I remember, you know, as a job developer, I got this kid a job. He lived in Southeast DC, and, you know, his family was on public assistance. And I remember my, you know, well-intended white colleague coming to me and telling me that, you know, she was going to report the mother because the mother felt that the mother didn't want the child to work because it would impact her Social Security check, right? And so she felt like it was unfair that the parent was holding this against the child because that check was supposed to be for him and not the family. And I was looking at this white woman like she was straight crazy. I was just like, yeah, you're doing too much, right? And that's when you think about cultural competency, right? And so, you know, I started thinking about that. One of the things that they told me at Lincoln is don't look for what's in the research. Look for what's not there, right? And so I was very curious about how do you measure cultural competency in these service organizations, right, that are designed, right, to dismantle, if you will, in some way, what we know as social determinants of health, right? And so, because of that research, I was recruited to work at the University of Maryland at College Park. And so when they recruited me, you know, I got the position, which was like, you know, to work on the system change grant. And I'm still young, because you guys have to know, I'm still peddling the imposter. I'm like, oh my God, now I have really done it now. Right, they are going to find out about me. That's, you know, in my head, like, I didn't feel like I had, like, even though, like, my work is demonstrating, you know what I mean, my capacity, but in my spirit, I still was feeling like, yo, they gonna find out about me at any point in time, right? So I go to Maryland and I work on the Systems Change Grant. And one of the things that came up upon me being hired was that I hadn't finished Lincoln where I was conferred a degree. So this position in the academy at the University of Maryland College Park is a postgraduate level position. So now, you know, the director's looking at me like, we got a problem here. I don't have the problem. You got a problem. Right? I don't know what my problem is. And she said to me, well, you know, what if, you know, I think that, you know, maybe if you would be willing to say that Lincoln gave you your bachelor's. And I was thinking to myself, oh, you got me straight twisted. Lincoln said, you have to stand on this rock and believe that you are worthy of this change work. And that this program, although you do not have an undergraduate degree, is legitimate, right? The rigor, you know what I mean, what we learned and from who we learned it was real. This was not a, mail order university. And so I said, I'm not willing to do that. And so that means that I can no longer, be considered for this position that I understand. And you know what I mean? I'm, honored that I was considered. And guess what happened?
You were given the job?
I was not only given the job, they gave me 6 weeks of leave up front for me to finish my degree. Come on, man. So this is something that I want to bring up in terms of systems. See, folks do what they want to do when it is of benefit to them. Pay attention. All right, they do what they want to do. And I'm never getting that job because, I'm an organizational development practitioner by trade, right? And so I'm a cultural anthropologist. I study systems, I study people units, etc., right? So when I get into Maryland, there was this white woman, she was my director, and she had a black soul. She's what we call in this work right now, this equity work, she's called an ally, right? I call her a co-conspirator. And she sent me to a conference at MIT, and it was called Black Women in the Academy Defending Our Name. I would never forget this conference. And they had all the big hitters there, Lonnie Guinier and Bell Hooks and Janetta Cole, right? All of the, the black, thought leaders. And I saw 2,000 women with natural hair. Now keep in mind, in 1990s, early, that's not how we was rocking in professional spaces, if you will. I saw 2,000 women that had locks and bush puffs and etc. And I came back and I said, I want to lock my hair in 1990. People thought I was crazy. And I went to her and I said, is this going to be a problem? And she said to me, she said, girl, when you're dynamic, you can do whatever you want to do. Okay. And so I spent 10 years at Maryland College Park. I did amazing work. I actually founded my consultancy because I'm always going around to nonprofit human service organizations doing strategic planning, etc. One of the things that I thought that was very interesting was that most of the people that I encountered that was working there didn't have what we know or I call agency, personal agency. You know what I mean? Didn't have that, do you realize that this is your life and your resume? Because I was working for a contract with the Marion Barry administration, and at the time, he was about to lay off like 25–30% of his Department of Human Services staff. And I ain't talking about entry-level folks at the time. I'm talking about people that was, riding around in the big car notes and was living in the big mortgages, them folks. And I was looking at their background and I was thinking, and when they lay you off, no one is going to hire you. Like not a soul. Because you did not bother to go back to school, to take a class, to do anything that would improve your profile and your cachet. And why should someone hire you? You've been on this job, retired in place for 20 years, and they can hire somebody coming out of college, right, that has more chutzpah, and they still not mad at the person because 15 years ago she dated my man, all that kind of crazy stuff, right? And so, I thought about, this is about ownership. Because I have never been on a hiring committee in my life where the question came up, so, did your job pay for your training or were you responsible? Did nobody ask that? Am I lying? It does not come up. So I founded a consultancy and I named it Iona Concepts. And Iona is a name that enslaved mothers named their enslaved daughters. I own her. You may remember of elder women named Myona and Iona, right? And so my business is structured around ownership and agency, individual and collective agency. So after I was at Maryland for 10 years, I had it was a wonderful experience. I had a wonderful, what we call a cake job. You know, I was in a learning, enriching environment. You know, had a lot of autonomy, could wear shorts to work. You know, hey, backpack. I was living that life. And I thought, oh, you know what? I need to leave here because if I don't, I'm going to be a lifer. Like, I'm sick of my own stories that I have to tell about this work. And so I left there and I went to work for a funder in community development, an organization. It's a congressionally sponsored funder called Neighborhoods America. And they fund community development across the country. And I was the position that helped to discern the organizations that we were going to fund, right? And so I learned a lot about the funder's lens and community development, right? You know, I learned a lot about, you know, the history of what we know as restrictive covenants or redlining, right? And how the government played a role in that. And it was Baltimore that really is the godfather of redlining, right? And so I learned about, you know, these strategies and development areas, and it became just very interesting as I would go into organizations and really uncover their operating norms. And, you know, my job when, you know, organizations would call and, you know, we developed farmhouses and we were wondering if we would be, you know, if we could access funding. And, you know, in my head, you know, I was thinking my B-roll was saying, there's not a snowball chance in hell. You're not ever getting this money. Right, so, you know, that would be my B-roll. But, you know, I would have, you know, some stock response. Well, you know, at this time, you know, our focus area, right, et cetera, et cetera. Anywho, you know, I learned a lot. And, you know, I was sitting in these meetings, oh my God, meetings, you know, that's why I was kind of late. There's meetings after meetings, there's meetings, there's more meetings. Then there's a meeting about the meetings, and then there's another meeting. So I would just be daydreaming. I ain't even lying. I would just be checked out, like, I be looking like this. But in my head, I was like, this is not it. And so I started, like, visioning, like, this space. Like, I was like, you know, if we could just create, like, a space where people would gather because, you know, I, you know, just spent a lot of time, like, studying, you know, with the Lincoln. So, like, I understand, you know, the impact that desegregation did to our communities, right? It didn't do us any favors because it dismantled the social fabric of our communities. And so with that being said, you know, in my head, I just was like, it's going to be a yoga studio in the morning, and then, you know, I would, you know, go to meetings, and I would even vision, like, what I would have on. Like, that's crazy, I know. But I would be like, I'm going to be wearing these pants, and I'm going to be picking up my daughter, and then afterwards we'll go back to the studio for this. And I just kept this vision in my head that I was going to have concerts and art shows and etc. And so the other thing I never forget visioning is that I wanted to live near the water. I wanted to live near a beach. And so I had this vision board. And so on my vision board, I had a woman of a certain age who was riding her bike near the shore. And then I had a picture of, like, you know, this art space and etc. And it was like in 2000, I was at my parents' house on Christmas, and my brother had pissed me off. And so I was like, I'm leaving. So I go visit a girlfriend of mine, and her mother was visiting from Hampton, Virginia. And, you know, I had went to visit her mother a few times, and I remember, you know, she lived in this brick house, and she could walk to the beach, and so, you know, we're there, and I was just having chit-chat. Like, I swear to you, it was chit-chat. It was like, hey, how are you? Right? How's it going? Well, I just left my husband, and I was thinking, this woman was in her 70s. I was like, okay, you Rashiro. She was like, so what, you know, chit-chatting. So what you gonna do, like, with your house? I'm chit-chatting. She said, well, I'm gonna sell it. So I was like, well, can't you walk to the beach? And she said, yes, you can. And so the next day, I called my broker, and because I had just bought Baltimore. So Baltimore story, but I just bought a house in Baltimore. And so she said, you know, Marissa, you could basically, you know, you might have to change your lifestyle a little bit, but, you know, you could possibly do this, right? We could get you in on, you know, on an instrument that actually kills, you know, America's economy. It's called the, what was it called? The interest-only loan. Yeah, that's another talk show. The interest-only loan, right? I got in on the interest-only loan, but I was grateful and blessed because the guy I was dating at the time was a real estate finance consultant. And the first product that they gave me was, this is what it said. He said, now you need to go take this back to them and tell them blah, 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 right? And so what he said, let me tell you what this is saying. This is saying that you pay, this is a short-term vehicle, right? And if you pay this off before it balloons, that you have to pay them $30,000. Now, how do you think you thought what? You're going to be underwater. No. Took it back, they gave you another one, 18. Took it back, they gave me another one, it was like 6. Well, why didn't you give me the 6 from the beginning? Okay, pay attention. All right. So guess what? Long story short, I got that house.
Come on now, come on now.
I got that house. It was 2005, and it was my vision that, you know, I was going to be working at the beach and riding my bike, you know, at the beach. And 2 years ago, I moved to that house in Hampton. I'm not there full time yet, but I'm trying, right? So we Airbnb or whatever we have to do, you know what I mean? But it's been a challenge, right? So my other vision was this space, right? And so on the brother in the back said on St. Paul Street. I was like, that's where the Living Well started. It started on St. Paul Street. A sister named Elijah Brown is a yogi. She's a yogi in the city, and she has a place called Flourish. And she was renting a space. It was just a front room of brownstone. And I used to do a lot of like sister circles there and retreats there and whatever. You know, that was just my thing. And she could no longer do it. She called me, she said, Marissa, you should take this over. And she said, you know, you don't have to keep it, you know, called the Living Well. And I said, I'll tell you this, I'll buy it from you. I'll buy the name. And I did. After that, I did, I think I stayed in that space maybe a few more months. And I did what Susie Orman says not to do. And I took my personal assets and built out a space on North Charles Street, North Charles and 25th Street, right? And so that's where I started my first brick and mortar studio. And it really became a hub, and more than a hub, it became a network of artists and healers and social entrepreneurs, right, and thought leaders. And it became a place where we recognized that something was happening, right? That my goal was to provide safe space for Black folks, right? So the Living Well, we're devoted to soulful expression, conscious expansion, and optimal wellness. And so with that, you know, I've been able to, you know, basically blend my work around organizational development and looking at, you know, how do we disrupt social determinants of health, right? And so when we talk about social determinants of health, we're talking about access to safe, affordable housing and child care and health care, etc. But you cannot have the conversation about safe, affordable housing without having a conversation about workforce. You cannot have the conversation about workforce without having a conversation about transportation, right? So these are not just social determinants, they're structural. So recently, my thought partner, her name is Nika Namdi, she founded Fight Like Baltimore that came out of the Living Well. We did a report called The Anatomy of Blight. And I think that it's important to note that 15,000 families, we have 15,000 blighted properties in Baltimore City. 15,000 families did not just get up and leave their homes. There was a systematic process. So in our report, The Anatomy of Block, we chronicle. We did an amazing job of chronicling the laws that extracted wealth from our communities, right? That put tariffs on our ability to expand our housing and our businesses, right? And so we could show the breadcrumbs from the red line communities to the blight, the disinvestment of our communities. And one of the biggest problems, which, I so appreciate this platform, and I'm going to try to wrap it up. One of the biggest challenges that we looked at is what we call legacy wealth. Talking about death will not kill us. Talking about death will not kill us. And one of the biggest challenges with these blighted properties have to do with our lack of continuity planning, our trauma, our families not being able to get on the same page, right? Understanding that these systems, such as the tax sale system, we got to understand that they're predatory in nature, right? And that in our society, even down south, there basically have forecasted that billions of dollars have been lost in black family community, what we call legacy wealth, because families cannot get on the same page. When is the last time you checked on grandma's house? Is her taxes paid? Is whose name is on the deed? Because you know that in our families, grandma dies. Cousin Junebug is living in the house.
Yes.
Then he goes to jail.
Yes.
And then somebody else, and we do not even have knowledge of who this house is titled to, right? And then the programs they do have available for folks to get weatherization or whatever else, we can't access because our name is not on the deed, right? And so just like in companies, we know that it's important to have succession planning. It is important for us to have that in our communities, right? We are losing our legacy wealth. Do you know for every blighted house on a block, even though grandma kept her house in pristine condition, every blighted house on a block extracts $17,000 of equity. Okay? So let's get on board. When we talk about, the living well, we're built on the pillars of social and economic vibrancy, right? And so economic vibrancy, I want to talk about the cannabis because as it relates to war on drugs won. All right? African Americans represent less than 10% in the cannabis industry. And so at the Living Well in October, the 13th and the 14th, we are going to host what we call the Black Can. That we're going to call presenters, sponsors, and vendors that are operating in the cannabis space. So the first thing I believe that needs to happen is that we have to silence the stigma on cannabis. Baby boomers are the #1 consumers of cannabis.
All right, baby boomers. I see y'all.
All right, in the house.
Hey, get eyes.
In the house. All right? We have to silence the stigma because baby boomers are the #1 consumers because we have the most experience with it. Right? This ain't scary dude on the corner you buying. You shouldn't be buying weed from scary dude on the corner. And you need to know what you're buying. You need to understand how does it work for your body. What are the healing properties of cannabis? Right? This is a whole ass industry, excuse me, respectfully, that we are being shut out of, even though we have been the most impacted by cannabis, right? The Black Can, October. On August 12th, we are having one of our foundational programs. It's called Breaking Free. It's a healing circle for Black men where it's guided discussion by Dr. Henry Gregory, he's a clinical psychologist, and Baba Asar Winkler, who's a sensei. And black men get together and talk about the impact that and the collateral damage of institutional racism has on the black mind and emotional wellness. Because when it impacts the brothers, it impacts who? The sisters, right? And so we, again, come from a culture where black men don't talk about these feelings. Like a lot of times we don't have language, right? We're dealing with trauma that we don't even know that we're dealing with, right? And so the Living Well has hosted and will continue to host what we call TAMAR. It's trauma, addiction, mental health, alcohol, and recovery, right? And we're teaching how to use indigenous practices, such as dance and poetry, etc., and looking at how do we support one another. Those have been exposed to trauma and those who we are working with that have been traumatized, okay? And so I would like to end with, for those of us that are in this journey of entrepreneurship, it is not an easy road, right? You have to be, committed to your vision, right? And know that it's not, linear. It's not, it just don't go like this, because, I've had to live in well for over 12 years now. We moved out of North Charles Street and we moved on top of Ida B's table down at the Real News Network, right? And let me just say this, one of the things that is important for us to understand, we have got to own our bricks. If we don't own our bricks, then we have no control of what we're doing. The other thing that I would like to end with that, I believe that the future organization as it relates to the helping professionals will operate as open teams of teams with a symbiotic relationship working towards a common mission and purpose, right? We got to come together. Many of us speak about, and wear the red, black, and green, but we are still operating from a European ethos of rugged individualism and competitiveness. We must operate from the center of Ubuntu, that I am because we are. We need to collaborate and not compete with one another. And with that, I would like to say thank you.
Amazing. Marissa, you mentioned you're actually been accepted into a program. Did you mention that where we're talking on the side?
So I'm a recipient of an award of collectively
Go ahead
from
and
Baltimore.
I'm sorry, go ahead, mic up so we can get it on.
Collectively is a black-centered engineered organization to support black entrepreneurship and thought leadership. And so I was voted by, the Baltimore community as a change maker in Baltimore. And so I'm very honored, to be acknowledged with Brother Nati, of everyone's place, and Diane Wings, and so on. And so they are having their party and awards August 4th, at the Peninsula. And so it's collectively, and this information will be on our website. I shared with you a bookmark that has a little information on the Living Well in my card if you have it. And so if you, ever have any questions, you want to access, we have what we call a Black Brain Trust that is made up and comprised of social entrepreneurs, healers, artists, etc., that, are really steeped in this work. That if you need support with, writing a grant or coming up with a concept or, trying to come up with a logic model for your business, then, this is what we are designed to do. So, thank you so very much.
Do you have any questions for Marissa? Marissa, I want to put you temporarily, I want to put you on the TV show before that conference, the men's conference on August 9th. I'll talk to you about it, but I'd love to have you on and do that. Any questions? Do you have any questions? Yes, King.
Where is the location of Living Well now?
Right now, we're in residency at Baltimore Unity Hall, located at 1505 Utah Place, in 21217.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Amazing. Yes, sir.
Now, you said you wanted to try to remove the paying the guys that are already making money from, I grew up in Carolina, the tobacco industry doesn't want to go anywhere. Okay? The cannabis industry is starting to eat on a little bit of their money. Like, the cannabis industry is starting to eat on a little bit of tobacco's money. So tobacco is sorry, we're going to start making a little bit of campaign. You know, hey, be careful about that weed you get from that dispensary because it might have fentanyl. You know, and this, that, and the third, and just trying to still attach all the illegal stigmas that was on marijuana for so many years in the United States because it's illegal all over the world for quite some time.
Right.
How do you go about fighting that?
Right. So this is one of the purposes of this conference, is that we need to have a space where we can feel safe in talking about this. You know, I was in our economic trauma session, and we were like waiting for something I don't know, and so it was July 1st. It's when cannabis adult use became legal here. It's what we want to say adult use, right? So this is another thing that we've got to be clear about the language that we use, right? There's a difference in the industry. They'll say to you, can you please use adult use and not recreational? Because recreational has other stigmas attached to it.
That's right.
And so to your point about how to demystify, if you will, or remove the stigma. You know, I am a 62-year-old woman who, you know, I have achieved some level of success. I am a cannabis user. Yep, I'm gonna blaze up. And you know what? Guess what? It takes nothing from me. People say, like, how come you? Because at this point in station of my life, I don't care. Like, my mother and father dead and gone, and they knew I smoked when I was 16 years old. So, you know, so this is a stigma that we have to. But also, this is not about just, you know, blazing. You know, this is about how we're using these products to heal ourselves. This is about understanding, you know, I'm not going to smoke an indica. Anybody here know what an indica is? Come on, y'all. It's a strain. It's a strain. And an indica is, you know, they have, you know, people say they have you locked on the couch. That's an indica strain. It's a downer, right? And people use indicas that are in a lot of pain. It helps them to relax so that they can go to sleep, right? It's not just about, you know, I'm going to eat some chips, right? You know, sometimes, you know, for me, my brain, you know, I got my brain racing. You know, if I smoke a sativa, you know, I'm going to clean the baseboards in the kitchen and also, you know, rip out 2 reports in the same, you know, 8 hours. I'm being funny. Like, I don't want to
yes, sir.
It's interesting that you mentioned that. Back in the day, I remember there was Pacololo and Sesame Mill. And you're bringing up terms that I've never heard anything about. So they broke it down to such a degree to where there's different strands or what have you that you can...
And there's an app that you can load on your phone. It's called Leafly. And when you're going into a dispensary and you say, I'm a sativa smoker, I'm an indica smoker, I like a hybrid, they literally, you can pull it up and there's reviews on it. It'll tell you where it was grown, where the THC, this is a whole new day, folks, is what I'm saying. And this is why the black community is so important, because we got a lot of people in our community. We can sit here and act like we don't know nobody's smoking no weed. Stop playing. Stop playing, right? But we need to educate our community, right? And also we need to get in the game. It is $1 billion industry that we have less than 2% of blacks that represent this industry, and I'm going to yield back my time.
Well, Marissa, you've been amazing. I'd like to say on the stage that our company, Sunshine Lemonade, will sponsor and also be a vendor at the event. So that's our first step. Let's give it up once again for Mr. Stone Bass, amazing. And coming to the stage right now, without any further ado, she's waited patiently. She came by last week just to hang out with us, and tonight she's on the main stage. Dr. Monifa Jones. Give it up to Dr. Monifa Jones. Fresh off her conference, which was a smash. She enlightened so many people, inspired so many people, and again, so glad she's joining us tonight. Give it up to Dr. Monifa.
Before we get started, we've been sitting for a little while, right? Yeah. Let's stand up for a quick second. Let's shake it off a little bit. Shake it off. I'm going to ask you guys a question while you are standing. How you feel?
Oh, good.
That's a bad foot. A bad
got graded by the end of the semester on their enthusiasm.
Oh, wow.
So I'm going to ask you a question. If you were being graded and you understand that you started my class with an A, and the only way that A could go down is if you lost your enthusiasm. Because what I'm going to do, I'm going to teach you when I walk in the room, what you tell yourself is how you will act. And I said, how you guys feel? And I'm like, we are. No. That is unacceptable. Because we understand that we tell ourselves how we feel. So if you just all right, we're not having a good time tonight. So I'm gonna give you guys another opportunity, and then we're gonna sit down. How do you feel? If you're satisfied with what you've done, I will let you sit down after you do one more exercise. I want you to lift your hands as high as you can as we stretch. Now lift them a little higher. Okay, everybody have a seat? I want you guys to know you guys failed the test. And I'm going to sit down. I'm so used to standing. I'm going to sit down. I know you have questions, right? On my own, let me know. So, if you understand that I said, lift your hands as high as you possibly can. And then I said, lift it higher. Now, if the first time you lifted your hands as high as you possibly can, how did you lift them even higher? That's because you didn't understand the assignment.
That's right.
And that's what happens in our lives. We want to reach the next level, but we don't go as far as we need to, but we tell ourselves we didn't make it. And that's why we give up. Why? Because we didn't go as far as we needed to.
That's right.
I said lift your hands as high as you can. Now higher. Why is there room left? That's how we live our lives. We say we did enough. We say we went far enough. But we didn't. So let me go take my seat, get excited.
That's how you get it started now. Hold on, Dr. Neal. Let me see it again. I don't think I
Yes,
get
sir.
We need you five. We need to
I like to stand with
make sure you're right.
Thank you, sir.
So yes, that's it. So again, congratulations. Give it up for Dr. Neal. I can only imagine the kind of firepower that happened at the conference. So you can sit down. You can.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
I mean, whatever you feel comfortable. However you feel comfortable.
I'm comfortable.
Are you okay?
Yes.
Because I know you got that power, that energy.
Yes.
And that is so true. It's like you said, we feel like we're doing the most we can do, but are we really doing the most we can do? I just, this morning I did a hit at 4-H, right? 4-H, the kids raise the animals. You know, there's the farm fair coming. So the kids, and what's interesting is mostly girls.
Wow.
You know, 9-year-old girl handling a 2,200-pound steer that she raised, right? And I was like, again, the farmers and then those little girls, just thinking about what they're doing. And, you know, you gotta get up in the morning, you gotta all these things every day, you know. And I think so many times how I started something and stopped something. Or even like if you ever, I don't know if y'all ever had to look for a job, but you kind of like didn't do a great job looking for a job. Or you say you're gonna add a stream of income, but you don't really do that. But anyway, so Doc, let's start being that. This is the polish. This is the Doc is delivering the heat and the fire. Take us back to Little Doc, before it was Doc.
Whoa.
Was it here? Was it another place? Where did you grow up? How did you start off?
I was actually born in Washington, D.C., and I was raised in Black Man's Development Center. My parents were very, very, I don't know how to say the word other than they were amazing in the black community and Black Man's Development Center. So when I was born, I actually was not given a name. And they took me home from the hospital. We had a baby naming ceremony, and they really believed in, you know, the elders laying hands on the children and determining their name. And my name, Monifa, means hope and faith. And so I'm super excited about that. I was named by one of the elders in Washington, D.C. Then shortly after that, we moved to New York, and I was raised in Manhattan and Harlem. And then we moved to Baltimore when I was 8 years old, back to my daddy's stomping grounds. He said New York was too busy for us. He wanted us to slow it down a bit. And my dad's family comes from Turner Station area, and so we moved back to Baltimore, and I've been here ever since, and currently live in Pennsylvania.
Wow, and so was it pretty much, again, you sound like you had all the tools that, many in our community don't have, but it sounds like you had those tools. Was that, were there rough spots? Was there a time of self-discovery that you didn't know where you wanted to go? Talk to us about that, because really, what I was telling Marissa, really just kind of like, a lot of times we see the success, but a lot of times those times that got us to that point are really what made us who we are. So were there moments in your young life that made you who you are?
Let's talk about the whole entire most of the time. Get excited. I would like to say that you said were there rough spots. My question is, was there any light? Right? So what happened with me was, I'm going to start here and then take you back, but I'm the type of person that believes if there's no light at the end of the tunnel, right? And people say, well, that's how my life has grown. There was no light at the end of the tunnel. Now, I just light it up. I'm not looking for a light. I will light it up myself with the dynamite, get excited. But what happened was when I started, I was raised in a family where my father, unfortunately, was an alcoholic, and there was a lot of abuse in our home. So I raised in that environment. And a lot just, I didn't know I was poor until the kids beat me up and told me, you don't have good clothes and your hair not done and all that kind of good stuff. So a lot of, a lack of self-esteem, a lot of lack of confidence. So I grew up just trying to get straight A's because my dad said I'm supposed to do well in school, and I was a daddy's girl, and all I wanted to do was do great in school. He taught me how to read books. I went to all the sales seminars with him because he was a car salesman, a life insurance salesman. He sold everything. He was amazing, amazing, amazing man. I just buried my daddy on March. He passed away on March 22nd, 2023. So yeah, that's my heart and my soul. I'm a daddy's girl all day and all night. So with that being said, I was raised in that environment, 14 years old, hanging out in the wrong place. Kids talking about, oh, let's do some PCP, let's hang out with this, and doing the wrong things at the wrong time. I was shot with a shotgun. It went straight through my heart and straight through my chest into my heart, and they said I should have died. They said close range, it should have blew my back out, but they said my heart vessel, my organ of my heart actually stopped the pellets, and they said they have no idea how, but I know how to get excited. So, but I'm still here. And then at 17 years old, I decided to marry my father, an alcoholic who likes to fight, get excited. And so I did that when I was 17 years old. I met him at 18 years old. My father was upset because I didn't want to go off to school the way he thought I should be as a genius, and I fell in love with this man. I had 5 children with him. 20 years of domestic violence, buried 2 of those sons. Get excited. Light, yeah.
Wow, yeah. Wow, that's oh wow. So that's a hell of an answer right there. And so how did you come through?
Well, the beautiful thing is that I'm like many of you. I'm like many of you. When I came to this event last week, I want you to know I was so impressed, Mark. Sitting listening to Luke Fields, I was like, where am I? A walking encyclopedia. Like, I was just soaking it all up. And I realized that people who are attracted to events like this are just like me. They are givers. They are community people. They believe in unity. They believe in connection. And the reason why we believe in helping others is because we've been hurt. And we know the depths of the pain. And the reason why we have so much compassion and passion is because we know what it feels like to be hungry. We know what it feels like to be rejected. We know what it feels like to be abandoned. So we're going to find a way to help everyone. You would not be in this room. Motivational Monday, motivate what? Unless you had a heart. And unless you've been through something. So even though I don't know each and every one of your stories, and I'm so excited the day I met the amazing Eartha Harris, right? I don't know your story, but I know she got one because she's helping us. The same thing, Alex McCamey. I know he has a story. I don't know it, but I know because I've seen the great work he's done in the community. So with that being said, like life hasn't been no crystal stair in my Maya Angelou voice. But what I decided to do was, which one of the reasons why I wrote this book, was I decided that I'm going to help others. I actually started off in education. I was an elementary school teacher, middle and high school. I was saving children off the streets because I was a big peer tutor because I was straight A's in school. And then I went to an outpatient mental health clinic, and they asked me to help with an after-school program with kids with ADHD, helping with homework. And I fell in love with mental health. I saw the mothers coming in. I saw the mothers with substance abuse. I saw the mothers who couldn't read. I saw the fathers who only showed up once a year when we gave out Christmas gifts because he knew that he couldn't provide for his family, but because we provided Christmas, I can show my face this time. We don't understand the struggles men go through. And we think they're rude, and we think they don't have feelings like us, but the reason why they don't show up is because they feel less than, and because we don't celebrate our kings the way we need to. So they have to come home when somebody gives you a free turkey because they know their kids are eating that day and you're not going to curse them out.
That's good.
So they show up that day. But what if we honored our kings every day? What if we understood the things that they went through? They would come home more. So when I went to that outpatient at mental health, I changed. When I went to, matter of fact, I went to Lincoln University for my master's. I changed everything from education to mental health and human services, and I've been there ever since.
You are be preaching tonight, aren't you?
All right, now get excited.
Isn't it crazy how the universe put y'all two together tonight? Same kind of same energy. And that Lincoln, I wish my daughter went to Lincoln now. She needed it. She needed it. And so Doc, okay, you got us fired up, you got us emotional. I got tears stuck in my eyes right now. They haven't dropped down yet, they stuck right there. But take us through, you gave us a little bit of what you do, but take us through a little bit of that, because I think you're right.
I started off in mental health, it's going on 30 years now, and I'm aging myself to get excited, over 25 years ago. And when I started off in mental health, I really thought I was going to help the community, and I was going to help. Let me tell you, my number one thing was to let African Americans know that mental health is a safe space. See, we believe you can talk to the pastor, you can talk to your grandmother, you can talk to your best friend, but if you go get clinical help, you're crazy and something's wrong with you.
Right.
And so we have nowhere to turn. And we don't have enough time to talk about post-traumatic slave disorder. But we have nowhere to turn because of the history of the generational curses that we need to break in our own community.
That's right.
So all we do is pass down trauma from generation to generation. And I decided that my pen name is the messenger, Monifa, that I'm going to help people to find the message within. Because each and every one of us, we have our own message. And I can lead you to it, but I promise you, I cannot give it to you because each and every one of us has a different message. And so going within allows us to discover the power that we have within. I'm a healing coach. I'm a life coach. I'm a therapist. I lead you back to you. Like, I'm going to talk to you for a minute, but you need to be alone. I say if you don't have 5 minutes, you don't have a life. If you get 1,440 minutes every single day, and you telling me you're not going to take 5 minutes to discover yourself, to find out who you are. I've been around the sun 54 times. I finally fell in love with myself when I turned 50.
Come on.
Because I didn't know. I had low self-esteem. I had lack of confidence. I was trying to please everybody. Eartha, would you please like me? Please, please, please. Now today, I'm like, stop playing. Validation is for parking, baby. I don't need it. I don't need it. I love myself. So now that I love myself and you take your love away, guess what? I still have my love. Get excited. But what happens in our community is we're so used to rejection. We're so used to abandonment. We're so used to the color of our skin. We don't have the complexion with the connection. You get in the back of the room. We're so used to that we adopt our lives in that way and we accept that point of reference. But we are the royal ones. You better get excited about that. Yeah. We are the kings and the queens. What if you walk that way? What if you talk that way? What if Dr. J says, how you feeling, and you actually say great and actually believe it? I used to tell my children, you're the smartest in the class. You're going to do the best. And all of my children did amazing, all of them. Now, did they do amazing because they were geniuses, or did they do amazing because I told them? It doesn't matter.
Right.
The bottom line is they did.
That's right.
So what are you telling yourself? The challenge is, this book, I had to write it. It's called The Healing Directory. And the reason why I had to call it a directory, and I know I had a baby girl in here earlier today, and I love my young people, but I had to call it a directory is because it's not a quick act. It's not a 30-second reel. It's not a quick flash, and you get it. No. You got to do the work. Because many of us have trauma that we need to heal from. Many of us have not identified people we need to forgive. Many of us still upset with our parents, our ex-husbands, our children, our former friends, our college students, kids in high school, kids in elementary school that bullied you. You still upset with them. And you haven't let it go. And so I show us, especially us who work in a community, like, we are such big givers, but please hear me. If you don't hear anything else I say tonight, listen to this statement. You cannot pour from an empty cup.
Come on.
You cannot pour from an empty cup. I think you're great. I think you're marvelous. I think you're phenomenal. But can you please go fill yours up first?
That's right.
We're trying to help everybody in the community, and we don't understand why we still have our trauma and our guilt and our shame. That's because we haven't forgiven. And we're still holding it. And I tell people all the time, make sure you get my book because you can't carry this pain. You need to release it. And my book gives you a way to release it. So I'll tell you some of the chapters. The reason why, again, it's called the directory is because you have to do the work. Can you imagine that you will not even be able to recognize yourself once you learn who you are? I had an 80-year-old woman to come to my conference this weekend to tell me I changed her life. She's finally putting herself first for the first time in her life.
Salute.
For the first time in her life. So many of us don't understand the power of self-love. And as a whole psychologist, I did not understand that I needed to love myself. Trauma led me to loving myself. Being in an abusive marriage for 20 years led me to loving myself. With my husband coming home with the first child, it was devastating. And he thought there was permission to do it again because he brought home a second one. And do you imagine what people are saying? Oh, you're so stupid. And I told them this weekend, Marissa Harris, you know what I told them? I said, you can't say anything to me greater insults than I've already told myself. So keep it to yourself. We're all on our own journey.
That's right.
But what we don't understand is that we're trying to help others. We're trying to heal others. We give them our time, our money, our skills, our talents, our capabilities. But have you given that to yourself?
Come on.
Do you know what you like? The 3 things I talk about seeking in my book is spiritual mastery, physical mastery, and mental mastery. I was 330 pounds. I lost 150 pounds, but I lost the weight because I didn't know that I could love myself. I didn't know that I was involved in addictions. I was an overeater. I didn't know that I had to eat to soothe myself, that I would never ever fill that void. It will never be full. What's going to happen is I'm going to constantly sabotage myself until I die with sickness, illness, and disease. And one day I woke up and I said, enough is enough. Okay, you feel like your parents didn't love you enough. Fine. Are you going to blame them? Are you going to judge them for the rest of your life? Or are you going to live the legacy that they never showed you?
That's right. That's right.
I got caught up in addiction because I didn't love myself. And I allowed my husband to be who he was. And I told everybody I owe him an apology. Why did I stay for 20 years? Why did I allow myself to be a punching bag? Why did I let him think he was going to keep coming home and doing that over and over and over again? I gave him permission. And you're mad at him. And you need to forgive yourself for showing up. You need to forgive yourself for opening the door. You need to forgive yourself for not changing the lock. You need to forgive yourself, not them. You know how easy forgiveness is when you realize you're the one? You're the common denominator? You're the one. Oh, well, I got sexual abuse. Yep, you were there. I got physically, you were there. I got verbally, you were there. What are you going to do about it?
That's right.
Life is 10% what happens to you, but 90% how you react to it.
Thank you.
So I decided my reaction is, I am going to be better. I'm not going to be bitter. You don't already bust my lip. That's enough. You don't already been unfaithful. That's enough. You have already made me feel like I'm less than a woman. That's enough. But today, when I look in the mirror, baby, I don't believe the lies no more, y'all. Y'all better get excited. I started telling myself, girl, I love you. And I started going to the mirror every day. I love you, Monifa. It felt weird at first. It felt like a lie. But now, I'm like, how you doing? I'm excited. Because I never put myself first. I never valued myself. And now that I've learned to do that, I want to show everybody how to do it. I see this beautiful sister right here. And what I would tell, oh my goodness, I would tell my younger self, it's going to be all right. You're going to make it. You are much greater than you think. You are way more phenomenal than you think. You are outstanding. The people who are around you being condescending, talking foolishness to you, it's because they see your light, baby girl. And most people want to steal it. You know why? Because they don't have their own. And so they figure if they could bring you down, listen to this. If they're trying to bring you down, they below you, girl. You better get excited. If they're going to bring you down, they got to be down to bring you down. But see, you have to learn to elevate yourself and empower yourself. So the book has topics like the first one is the keys to self-love. I believe self-love is the foundation and creation of the rest of your life. I didn't know how important it was. You need to sit for 5 minutes. I'm just telling you, there's no other way. You have to do the work. I can promise you, and I'm not going to have you raise your hand, okay? I can promise you, all of these great people in the room, you don't sit for 5 minutes every day. Quiet, introspection, and ask yourself, did I do my day or did my day do me? Did I show up with the frightened parts of my personality or the powerful part of my personality? Every time I make a decision, I'm like, girl, is this the frightened part or the powerful part? When somebody, oh, you need that money? Oh, okay, the frightened part says, if I don't give it to you, you ain't going to like me. But I know I need it. And the powerful part says, no is a complete sentence. I'm done with that. Okay, get excited. Let's keep it moving. The powerful part of me, because I want you guys to know that I did a social experiment. And I just started telling everybody no. I said, let me see if I'm here for the money. Let me see if I'm here for my status. Let me see if I'm here for my skills and what I provide for you. So I just said no to everybody in my life. My husband don't even know he was a part of the experience. Get excited. I said no. And if they still there, then they're still there in my life. And if not, they have no access. Because there was a time when I had unrealistic expectations. I'm like, everybody should love me. I'm a nice person. Everybody should treat me good because I treat everybody good. People didn't treat me nice. They were not reciprocal of all this love. Get excited. And I ended up in pain. And I ended up in depression. So listen, guys. Depression is worry over your past. That's it. So the moment you come to the present, you're not depressed anymore.
Thank you.
And we're done with depression. That's it. Y'all had your whole session for the next 3 years. And anxiety is worry over your future. So just come back to the present. See, people always want to manipulate their lives the way they want it to be. Well, I want him to love me. But let me tell you, I'm so happy he didn't love me, I almost settled. I have a king today. Y'all better get excited. I almost settled for someone that didn't love me, didn't appreciate me, didn't honor me, didn't know my true skills, talents, and abilities. So with that being said, the keys to self-love, stop self-sabotage. That's a big, big chapter on how we sabotage our own lives. We don't even try because we don't think we're going to make it. Whether you believe you can or you cannot, either way, you're right. How many things did you go for because you told yourself you don't qualify for that? How many relationships did you not go for because you said they're not going to like me? How many promotions you didn't even try for? How many degrees you didn't even go for? How many business opportunities Eartha Harris, you know she probably got 50 of them, right? And you're like, I don't qualify. Why not? Why not? And then when people like Eartha Harris and Marc Clarke and Michael Clarke show up in your life and say, you're great, you can do this. I'm going to promote you. Come to my place. Tell people what you're doing. You know how amazing it is what's happening in this room?
Yes.
The synergy in this room is amazing if you would tap into the value of it. But guess what? When stuff like that happens, if you don't tap into yourself, you'll miss it. You're still angry. You're still bitter. You still remember what your parents did. You still stuck on your ex. They living a life. I told a story, I won't go into it, about how we caught up on things in our life. But the other person, they gone on living their lives. And we're still stuck. So I want you guys to know that it's so important to tap into your own healing, that the final chapter on pain into purpose and wounds into wisdom, listen, every single thing that happened to you was for your good. I know it doesn't seem like it, but I'm going to tell you, every single thing that has happened to you was for your good. So when you look at it from that perspective, you're going to get excited. When somebody treats you wrong, you're like, yes, rejection. I'm being redirected. Get excited. And when that job doesn't work out, I don't belong there. And when that relationship doesn't work out, oh, someone else better is coming. Your perspective, your mindset. If you believe that all great things are supposed to happen to you when they happen, you just go with the flow. You don't wish things were as they were. You don't wish this person would love you. Now, I really used to sing a song, I can't make you love me if you don't. You know that song? I ain't gonna sing for you. I can't sing.
I can't make you love me if you don't.
Now, when they used to reject me, I used to play that on repeat. And I would go in my room and cry, he don't love me now. I'm like, you're lost. You better get excited. Because the perspective is, obviously, we're not supposed to be on the same journey. See, we all have you understand that you were born for a specific purpose and a destiny. Don't think things are mistakes. Don't think coming into contact with certain people are mistakes. Don't think journeys are mistakes. Don't think pain is a mistake. It's not a mistake. It is to elevate you. It is. Have you ever been through anything you thought you weren't going to make it? But now, when you're in the midst of it, don't it feel like it's never going to end? But now that you're on the other side, you're like, I'm good now. I'm bulletproof. There used to be a time when I was weak. There used to be a time when I was a people pleaser. There used to be a time when I needed your validation. There used to be a time when I couldn't even look at myself and love myself until you told me you love me, but then you took the love away. Then you left me depressed. Then I would just give and give and give, and I'm so depleted until one day I realized, whoa, everything I need is right here. Wow. I need to be inner focused, self-focused, self-centered. People think loving themselves is selfish. It is not. It is selfless, because if you don't love yourself, you're not truly going to love others. How you show up in the world and how you treat others is how you feel about yourself. And please understand, and this is going to help you forgive everybody and every incident that's ever happened to you in your life. You attract to yourself what you believe you deserve subconsciously. So when you were at that level, when you attracted that dude that broke your heart, you were at that level. So elevate yourself so you won't meet him again.
Thank you.
And forgive him for you being at that low vibrating frequency that y'all came into contact. Because I promise you today, my ex-husband, he can't even look at me, let alone get excited.
There you go.
Because I'm at a different place.
That's right.
You attract to yourself who you are.
Yeah.
So this is why I'm saying self-care, self-love, healing is so important. Because you want more money? Get into yourself.
That's right.
You're not looking for the bag. You are the bag. You want better relationships? Get into yourself. I told my husband, In order for you to have amazing relationships, you have to start as whole. You broke, he broke. Y'all trying to come together and wonder why it's not working. That's right. You are going to attract to yourself who you are, your money, your business, your everything. So do you think it's worth spending 5 minutes a day building yourself up? I promise you this. If you just sat, and you may have another question, if you just sat and just talk to yourself for 5 minutes, you will make better decisions. Well, that person talked to me that way. Was that appropriate? Why do I keep going back there? Every time I go there, I feel this way. So why do I keep going back there? Okay, let me not focus on that person. Let me focus on me. Monifa, what's going on with you that you feel like you need to be accepted by those people? What's cool? Okay, can you accept yourself? Just feel that. Feel self-love. Feel self-acceptance. What happened that made you believe you weren't enough? Don't be mad at your girlfriend who betrayed you. What happened inside of you that you attracted a girlfriend who's jealous of you to betray you? Why didn't I say, I want a strong sister like you in my life? A beautiful spirit like you in my life? Why didn't I say, I need a Nikki Ferguson? I need a strong, spiritual, supportive, celebratory woman in my life. I saw you and I was like, hey, let's lock arms. Why? Because that's where I was. So y'all need to forgive everybody.
That's right.
And everything. And first of all, start with forgiving yourself. We say a mantra every day on my Healing 101 show. I do a live show Monday through Friday, live at 5, and I have some pamphlets so you can lock in. And we say every day, I forgive myself for believing that I should have done better when I didn't even know how. I forgive myself for believing that I should have done better when I didn't even know how. And I forgive others for the same. See, I attracted my ex-husband because that's where I was. I didn't know how. That was my point of reference. We fight in our house. We drink in our house. That wasn't the police are at our. That was my point of reference. So when I saw that again, I was at home. So I had to come to the place where I had to recreate my home.
Thank you.
I wanted a home. See, calmness is power. Yes. He who angers you controls you. That's I had to get to the place where I established calmness and peace. And that's why my book has a 90-day journal in it. And I just released my second book this Saturday. So guys, this is a 4 compilation. 2 is done. It's 90 days in each one. So you actually have the first 6 months of the year right here. So you're going to take 5 minutes every day. You're going to set your alarm. And you're going to answer the prompts. You're going to find out who you are. I know you want your man to know your favorite flower, your favorite meal. Well, you're going to find out who you are. You might find out you don't like him. So you're going to need to spend some time alone and become that great, powerful being that I know you are.
Let me say something. Doc, give it up for Doc. She is killing it tonight. Girl, you got me. I'm an emotional wreck over here. I'm an emotional wreck because something that I want to share, and I think, and Doc, I want you to answer because you can help me with this. And I'm glad you're here because you and my daughter are the same age. I don't know if y'all going through the same challenges. So the part about life is amazing is all that stuff, all that information you've been sharing. My father-in-law was a unity minister, and so a part of that new thought movement, and so all that prosperity thinking, there is no life, there's no death, only life, love is an answer to all questions, blah, blah, blah. So my wife and my family have all been raised under it, right? So the part that's so frustrating, though, is that, so there's people in the room who are not there yet and going to get there. But when you get there, you got to stay there.
That's right.
And so a lot of the challenges, so my wife, who was raised under that her whole life, and this was back in the day, this is in the 60s, but I just see it seeps back in if you're not careful, the insecurities, the fear, it's really fear. And then my daughter, who my middle child, she knows it through and through. You guys saw her here. But she suffers from it. I'm gonna get the workbook for her because I'm like, I'm saying, it feels like women have an either rougher. I don't know if it's society. So even I mentioned earlier when I went to 4-H and I saw the 9-year-old girl handling this 2,200-pound steer, and all these girls, who can do anything But I still feel like in their teenage years, I go through that same thing. Am I pretty enough? Am I this enough? Am I that enough? You know what I mean? And so, Doc, help us get to, what is that called when you know the answer to the question, but it's still not, you're not living it? What is that piece?
Are you talking about in terms of your daughter?
Just in general, like I'm saying, like when you know, so you know this information you just gave, and you know it inside and out, and you apply it in your life, but the test is always when the problems come, when the fear comes, when the hurt comes, and then you kind of revert. It's almost like you lose it all. What is that about, psychologically? Because some people don't know. Some people don't ever have the information. They never had information. Then some people have the information but don't use the information.
I totally agree with you, and all of us suffer from this. All of us suffer from this. But I read a wonderful book called Atomic Habits, and it talks about how we can transform our life. And the challenge is we're not consistent enough. So because we dibble and dabble into it and we don't really adopt it into our lives, it becomes temporary. It doesn't become permanent. So what we really have to do is we have to trick our brain. Our frontal lobe is so, what's the word? It wants to do what it wants to do and wants to lead and guide us. And so when we do things that are intrusive to our brain and our brain doesn't want to accept it, it actually blocks us. Like, for example, when I started to lose weight, I was trying to lose weight for 20, 30 years, and I couldn't figure it out. And it was driving me crazy. I would just start it and back off, start, back off, and I said, I got to figure this out. And so Atomic Habits basically states that you have to trick your brain very slowly, because if your brain thinks you're doing something that's going to harm you, it's going to block it. All of your friends are going to start calling. They're going to offer you donuts every day at work. Everybody's going to start, So what you have to do is Atomic Habits. So Atomic Habits basically means it's almost like a sneak attack on your brain. I should take notes on this. This is $1 million question. Anyway, it's like a sneak attack on your brain, right? So what you do is you increase the habits little by little. So what I did was I took the tennis shoes that for me to work out, and I set them out one night for one whole week. Then the second week, I set out my workout uniform. That's 2 whole weeks. I didn't work out yet. Because my brain is like, every time I see them tennis shoes, you're about to go into a deep depression. You're going to eat a whole chocolate cake, 14 pizzas. We're not doing it, right? So the first week, I put out my shoes. The second week, I put on my work outfit. The third week, I went to the bathroom and I put it on, but I didn't go anywhere. And you're like, you 4 weeks and you're never going to get there. But guess what? I was 20, 30 years in with no success. So by the 4th week, I put the uniform on. Then I worked out for 5 minutes. By 2 months, I was working out. And my brain said, oh, this is what we do. See, the challenge is you wake up one day and like, I'm only eating broccoli and I'm running 15 miles.
Amen.
And you do that in your business. You do that in your relationship. You're not loving to your wife every day. And one day, like, I'm going to buy you flowers, chocolate, and we're going out. You my boo for life, right? She's like, no, y'all remember all this stuff? We got a lot to talk about, But what we try to do is we try to rush life. That's the challenge. You have to be consistent. Atomic Habits. Your brain will work with you if you work with it. But when you're intrusive and you're very impulsive, your brain will make sure it defends itself and stops it.
So perfect. That is so perfect. Man, let me tell you. Anybody have any questions? The Reverend is on fire tonight. King and then King Jr. The voice, the battle of the voices.
Dr. Monifa, it's amazing that you came in here talking about enthusiasm, because I was looking at the definition of enthusiasm, and I was breaking enthusiasm down. Some people see enthusiasm as thank you. Some people see enthusiasm as a simple definition, and it's from Greek, but it goes deeper. It's the Hebrew language is older than the Greek, and in the Hebrew language, it's about that inflamed element, that thing, that passion that cooks you up. But when we look at what we've learned from our lexicon that we've been taught, conditioned to believe, it says the God within. And so you come up in here talking about enthusiasm, and I done wrote all that stuff about enthusiasm right here. It's talking about conviction of worthiness,
of an object or a project. And I wanted to just share that I was so excited at one point about a project I was dealing with. And in the excitement of the project, I had a purple composition book. I was writing this stuff down. It was like I was just being fed. Something was like pouring into my spirit. And I was like, whoa. And I felt like it was about to explode. It scared me. Closed the book, put it over there. And I ain't seen it in 20 years. But it dawned on me that divine operation is about expansion and full expression. And you brought that to the table for us to see just now. And all of us have to do that. That's right. And I thank you for that.
All right, I want to thank you for bringing your message tonight, but I want to also share that I've heard this message somewhere before. My father was a military man. And one of the things that he was notorious for dropping knowledge even when you had no idea what he was talking about. I don't know if you remember I said that to you. You know, all that. And one of the things that he used to say is that just as well as you make your habits, you make your hell. I was like, what do you mean? I don't know if he finishes here. All right. And what he would also just point out is that, yeah, you can be proud and happy about all the things that you do well in this world, but you have to pay attention to the things that you don't do well. Because that's where you can go ahead and build yourself up and, do a little bit better than you want. I'm like, okay, fine. And that is what you were speaking about. You're noticing that within yourself, you said when you were 50, noticing that within yourself, that loving yourself is something that you can do a little bit better. And there's a lot of people out there that just don't hear that message. And it's really, really helpful that you actually gave that message tonight. And then once again, I want to give you a thank you.
Any other questions for that? Yes, Eartha.
I always like to participate in my own stuff. It's not really a question. It's I know you was out there. I've always said tight-knit means solutions and opportunities. And like you said, one of the things that I know that I've been trying to do since I've been searching, is trying to find answers. And one of the things that I always tell people and young people, I say, it's two things that held me back: fear and the lack of knowledge. So I always try not to be scared, and I seek people like you, because the knowledge is out there. I have done so many things that I have been afraid of, including getting this building, including not going to work 9 to 5, right? Buying houses, getting a car. It's like if you wake up every day, you can tell yourself all day, but there's a fear factor because the way society is set up. You don't want to work all hard and lose everything you got. But every day I say to myself, what's the solution? Go find somebody. I think one of the things we do in our community, we don't search for answers. We just want to be like, there's no one out here that talks like Dr. Jones. Where you come from? See how inspired these people were? I know we were inspired. And I didn't even know you. Nikki kept saying, you gotta get her. Mike kept saying, you gotta get her. And I'm like, we got her because I got you guys. So that's why I call it tighten. I tighten up, and the people that's, like you said, we bring these people in our lives. So with all of these great people, I know it brought you here. And this is why we gotta be inspired, guys. We have to be able to say to ourselves, we can heal. It's so many great things that I would love to do once I get over the fear of it, once I get the knowledge of it. People come to me all day long like, how do I get a grant? How do I do this? How do I do that? I love how they are, though, right? Because when I think of some of the things that I've learned from people like you, we have to always have young people in the room, guys. We have to bring somebody with us. Because a lot of times we sit here as if we're the only ones that need healing, and we forgot that we were hurt because it started when we was young. So we bring the young people in here, and we give them opportunities. They're getting it, because I done told, this is what holds me back from young people. As much as I keep telling them, do something here, do something here, do something, they don't do anything here. Because they need your book. Because Joyce said it's the start that stops us. They don't even get started. Because they're like, well, who's the way don't come? Or how do I do this? Or how do I do that? And I think, again, we have to be strong enough to say, okay, come back and ask me. I'll tell you how to do it. I'll show you how to do it. I'll be there with you. So we have to get older and wiser that whatever young people are trying to do, Mark, we have to be there for them. Like your daughter, I would love for her to come back. You know, we have to say to her, come on back, girl. Don't worry about it. You know, we got all the answers for you. And we don't surround ourselves. Like you said, we never know what Mark's situation is. We got to know each other's situation. Why is it that society makes you not say, hey, I need this, and this? Society say, don't you go over there and ask nobody for nothing. Don't you let them know that you need something. And then my other thing, even if I don't ask, how blind are we? How do you think we're going to keep the lights on in the building and do everything if nobody gives no money up? That's true. You know, it's like, then I feel like, you're right, I'm not the type of person because I don't know how to ask. I don't know how, because my mother had 10 kids and she used to tell us, when we went out in the community, she said, you go out there being poor-mouthed. And we were like, what you mean? You go and be asking people for food and stuff like that, because she felt like that was a reflection on her. I'm like, hey, you got 10 kids up in here. What you mean? Her image was that she came from a middle-class family. It was her and her sister. She had mom and dad. So like you said, she made certain life choices and she ended up with 10 kids. But she had that pride. It was like, don't go out here making like we poor. And I got the roof over your head, I'm feeding you guys, and this, that, the other. Now I'm different. I'm like, let's go out and ask. So we all have houses. We all have food. We all have everything that we need. We shouldn't be sitting around in a community with boarded up houses. Our kids are miseducated. People say uneducated, but I'm going to use the word miseducated because they go to school every day. And sometimes, like you said, because we don't want to bring psychiatrists into our schools, who want to sit down and listen to a teacher? Maybe we should change the way that we're teaching our children and still giving them IEPs. Why don't we say, there's nothing wrong with you that you don't want to go to school today? You know? And then when I see that, okay, then we deal with this whole youth thing. Then when our children are going off to colleges and they're doing all this sort of stuff, they still have a tremendous stress. First, they have a financial burden because the school is expensive. Then they're like, okay, what career do I choose? Do I career, you know, because I got to choose the one that's going to make me money. Because I can't go out here and spend $70,000, mom and dad, and come out and be an artist or, I don't know, a comedian. So then I see, then I see them coming out of colleges, and we're in 2023. So if they're coming out of college, 2023, we have more educated people than ever. Then not even jobs. Why isn't the community changing? Why is it still more boarded up houses? Children still miseducated and we have no money. So we got to figure out how we utilize you. So I am just so proud that we have this opportunity.
Thank you. May I backtrack just a quick second? I can't let this slide because you're my sister, right? You said once I get over the fear, right? So we always speak life over ourselves. So we wake up every day and we look in the mirror and we decide in that day, are we going to be the gazelle or are we going to be the lion? Most people live their lives as if they are surviving. That's the gazelle. You leave your house, who going to get me? What bill collector? What's in the mailbox? Who going to call? Who going to What's in the email? No, that's the gazelle. But the lion, when the lion wakes up, the lion knows it's the king of the jungle. Come on. And so when the lion walks out, the lion says, I am here. I'm not here to survive. I'm here to thrive. I'm going to look for my meal today. And a matter of fact, the gazelle is hiding behind the tree. I hope the lion don't find me. Now, if you wake up every single day and you determine that you're a gazelle, and you determine that you're going to live in survival mode, that's what we do as black people, and we have to stop it because we are the wealthiest people on the planet. We have to understand that we have all of the power that we need. My healing show is about, listen, pain is inevitable. Physical pain is going to happen. Emotional pain is going to happen. Suffering, option. It's a decision. Happiness is a choice. So when you wake up in the morning, I love my sister. We're not talking about once I get over the fear. I'm the lion. Even though I look in the mirror and I'm a little kitty, scared little kitty cat, when I look in the other side of the mirror, I see a lion. I'm going to walk accordingly. I'm going to talk accordingly. I'm going to make all my decisions in my power as a lion, and then watch the universe just line everything up. That's the only thing I'm saying.
And I think also, Doc, it's important, and that's Eartha again. Eartha is the spirit of the community to save us all. But
That's how I got here.
But I think, at least the people who are listening to this broadcast and people in the room, what's up, Grandma? If you don't love yourself, the first mission is to love yourself. You got to take care of you first. You can't be worried about the boarded up houses and all these damn kids if you don't love yourself. Because if you don't love yourself, it's like being in that bad relationship. You're inviting people into your life and you ain't even healed, you ain't even ready. You ain't ready. You're not ready. So if you're in this room and you don't love yourself, you got to learn to love yourself. If you got a man, a woman, children, whatever, and it's disrespect in your house, and your house is unsettled, and shit's falling apart, then you don't love yourself. Because when you love yourself, you don't put up with the BS from Big Mama, from your husband, from your wife. When I say BS, I'm talking about ultimate disrespect. If you're at work too, if you're accepting that, you got to look at yourself. Like, what are you attracting in your life? Your life is effed up. You're attracting it. And that's hard to hear for black folks because we'll say I'm a sinner, I ain't nothing but a sinner. Oh, we'll blame it on. No. You have to look at your life and be honest with yourself. And then once we're healed, we can go get them kids. Because that's what the kids see. The kids see another broken person coming to her, ambling towards them. Like, I don't know if I want to go with you or not. But Doc, so again, how do we, first of all, those of us who are able to do it tonight, let's purchase Doc's book, or both books if we can. Let's make that pledge if we can. If you can't, just do a donation. Give us something. But and then Doc, is this the first step, getting the workbook?
Absolutely, definitely get the workbook. I have a sheet that went around tonight. I would definitely encourage each and every person to fill that out. On behalf of Eartha Harris and Marc Clarke, I am giving you a free complimentary life coach session.
Oh, wait a minute.
And make sure you complete that in its entirety. So I'm here to help anyone who wants to go on their health and wellness goals. I'm really, really an advocate for physical health. Of course, we can't talk about all of that. I help people to write their books. Dr. collects 20 years into a day. I help people on their mental health journey. A lot of us don't understand how that works because we've never done it. So try it in a safe space.
So Doc, you got to give it up for both of our guests tonight. They've been amazing. And I'm sure Marissa and the Living Well also, if anybody feels generous tonight, make sure you donate to both causes. I mean, God put you in his room. And now this is the first time, Marissa, you agree to some kind of energy in the room. I told you I know you didn't know what to expect, but I'm gonna blame it on Eartha, also just the people, blame it on y'all. But, that's right.
So we go young and then we go older because those are the two things that I am passionate about. Our young people and our elders as well. So
we're talking about.
oh, I'm sorry. I just said I love my young people and my elders so we can have that balance.
As we wrap up, again, Doc, if no one has any more questions with Doc?
Yeah, one question.
Okay, hold on.
When's she coming back? Social media, tell us about it.
Social media, thank you. On Instagram.
Grandma, and then we'll wrap up.
Oh, sorry.
So, I don't really have a question, but you touched on a lot of things, but I'm an elder back here. I don't have a degree, but I just need to let y'all know that I agree with this young lady because I'll tell people this. A broken vessel cannot carry water back to the village. Why create a hill? Why create a mountain when you're just trying to cross a hill? If we don't teach, I'm starting here, Doctor. And I just want to ask everybody in this room, y'all see me on Mondays, I come up here. So, Doctor, I'm glad you're setting up there. This is good. Because I come up here every Monday. Y'all call me an elder, and I'm trying to set up, and she talked about the lion and I had the largest young girls club, and now one of my Monday night guests, residents in the room, friends, you might not have a little child, but how you gonna do anything she said when the little children that's under your charge is falling apart because you're broken? So I teach black etiquette. That's what I teach. Explain that nobody in this room with us, now one of y'all in this room has told me, I'm going to bring you my niece, I'm going to bring you my granddaughter, and y'all know I work in a course with broken children, I work at foster broken children, and I've healed a lot of adults because that's what I do. So I don't use unity no more. Everybody want to unify their community, not me. You know what I'm doing? I'm incubating my community. Y'all gonna look that word up for the night. I'm incubating. You can't unify hurt. You can't unify mistreatment. You can incubate love, comfort, and light. So I just want y'all to, these are my flyers. So thank you, young lady. Well, the other lady there, thank you really well. Thank you. I know these people. I'm just letting y'all know. You can be all adults you wanna. You can walk around and promote anything you want. But if you got a broken family, you haven't grown yourself. I teach the eagle theory. As long as you're flying high, it levitates, and you know you're looking down. But if you're already walking down, you don't know that you need to look up. So y'all got children in your house. I'm going to give y'all my flowers again. I'm going to thank you. And I'm going to tell y'all, if you don't have a child in your house, bring the child next door, because guess what? That's still your house, because you're in that village. So I'm going to give y'all this one more time and tell y'all it's not funny. I hear people in the room, adults calling children kids. When I was in the Board of Education, I took a job with me everywhere I went. And every time a professional person called a child, a kid, I would make them donate. I went home with the job money at any meeting. So how you label your mouth is what you produce that walk in the street. Y'all remember that. How you label your mouth is what you produce that walk among you in the street. I'm telling you that. Thank you.
Thank you, Marissa. All right. Wrap up for us.
Yeah, sure. Can y'all hear me okay?
Yeah.
It's definitely a bit of a backtrack on what you were saying because I just wanted to like hear everybody out. But I did have a question, so I guess it's like a two-part question. Okay.
Go for it.
So, how do you like explain when you are experiencing like you're the type of person who's like a high achiever at most times, so like when you do have a misstep, it's like you're being treated like it's like the worst thing in the world. Or just in general, like when you just feel like you just really can't make mistakes because like there's external things that are like making you feel like it's just not what you should be doing. So I guess I'm just trying to understand like where that comes from, like why people treat people who are like doing everything they're supposed to, why they treat them that way, and also why people assume people like that don't need anything, because I feel like that's something that I would definitely like to understand more, because I just really have trouble understanding that. So yeah, speaking for a friend and myself.
Absolutely. A lot of the times when people are processing the way that they show up, that's the reason why we really need to go on a self-love journey, is because we are showing up for others. And the reason why we don't measure up, and the reason why we hear all the outside voices, which are really just distractions. When when you learn to focus on self-love, you'll understand that everything you need is inside of you. And so when you sit still, you ask yourself the question, why is it so important to me to be validated by this organization or this person? Why is it so important to me for this specific person to say that they love me? Why is it so important to me? And when you sit down and you figure that out and you say, oh, I remember when Daddy did this when I was 6. I've been doing that my whole life. I remember when my bigger brother, he was in competition with me. I wanted to be better than him. So it's not that I'm an overachiever, and it's not that I operate in excellence. It's that I operate in the frightening parts of my personality because I got to prove to everybody that I'm good enough. Because if you already know you're great, you just show up. You just be. But when you have to overachieve, and you have to prove, and you have to excel, and you have to, and we're in the same boat with you. Everybody in this room, I promise you, you are not alone.
Yes.
And the reason why we're all in this room is because we're helping somebody. The reason why we're all in this room is because our life has been impacted. And that's why we're trying to make an impact. But then there are distractions. So I want you to go on a self-love journey because all of those things, they're just going to slowly go away. I was telling people, I identify as unbothered. Get excited. There used to be a time in my life that I was concerned about what you thought about me. I'm not anymore. Now I'm concerned about how to make an impact. I'm concerned about how to make a difference. I'm concerned about how to be a servant leader. So I'm going to spend 100% of my time not wondering what you think about me, what category you have me in, what level, what status, on social media. I don't care. What I want to know, I don't want my life to look good. I don't want it to just, I look good from the outside. I want it to be good. I want it to feel well. And what are you going to do? Every single day, you're going to focus on yourself. When you're other focused, you will never, ever, never, ever feel the void. When you're other focused, you will never please anyone, everyone. I promise you. There are people who love me, and I'm excited, right? And there are people who can't stand me because I'm too excited. But I'm going to stay excited because that's who I am. And the people who belong, they will come. And the people who don't, they will go. And guess what? If you come, hallelujah. And if you go, thank God. Both ways. And when you walk in that, it don't matter what they think, baby girl. And it's also, you're going to give yourself some relief, some freedom, some liberty to be you. You don't want to be 10 every day. And I'm not even going to ask you the question. I already know. You don't want to be perfect every day. Some days you just want to relax. You don't have to be. When you love yourself, you don't have to be. And when you go on that journey, you'll figure that out.
And the biggest one, I'm not projecting, but the biggest challenge is parents. They want the best for you, but it's your life. And a lot of times, I think young people spend a lot of times fighting their parents, but forgetting that it's your life. So it's like a lot of times your parents, they got all the love, they want everything for you. But the path they're choosing is not the path you're choosing. But this is when you got to put on your big girl panties, or pants, whatever, and just stand on who you are. And as you start to love yourself, that's the big one. Some people in this room have 80-year-old parents, 70-year-old parents, and it's the same way. They check in, they ask their parents about their life every day. It's your life, it ain't your parents' life. And a lot of times, parents, they don't know how to let go. And they got to let go. I don't know if that's the case, but I'm just saying. That's a big one. And all those people that, like you said you were a high achiever. So those people that put you in that status, you don't have to live up to their status. You have to live up to your status, to who you are, So that's a hard one. So it's not easy.
When people think about you, baby girl, it's not your business.
Right. Good or bad.
It's your business.
And they can't make you, that's what I say, he made me feel this way. She made me feel, they can't make you feel that way. I always tell my kids hate that. They're like, oh, I'm bad with that. But nobody can make you feel a certain way. You have to feel that way. All they can do is talk. All they can do is whatever. But Doc's going to sign books over here. She got Cash App. She'll take cash. She'll take credit cards. She'll take tokens, gold. And she might barter. Again, give it up for both of our amazing speakers tonight. This is next level. This is Chef Mo's back there.
So we get a little something from our chef here and support our food next thing over there.
And Eartha,
And all of our vendors.
Race First, did you have any information on that?
Yes. Talking about love yourself, I did have my guests there. Unfortunately, they have to leave. We do a Race First rally every year. And again, come to me because it's too much to explain. But it's based on self-love. Because again, like you said, our race of people have gone through so much that we have to think of ourselves first. So Race First is about that. And you need to come and experience and learn about us as a race of people, because it's simple like this. Roaches stay together, ants stay together, birds stay together. You see all these things, they stay together for a reason, because they got to think of their own survival first. They may be amongst a lot of things, but when we think about how we're going to survive, we have to have what they call a Race First philosophy up in here. We have to bring people like you to the table, because like she said, she couldn't do it today, but she knows we need healing. And that's what we got to say to ourselves. However we get it, whatever form it looks like, in a book, a therapist, a day here, we need healing, because as a race of people, we have to go and focus. So Race First philosophy is going to be this weekend. Just come to me, I'll give you more information. We do a whole thing in Baltimore City. We shut the city down.
All right, thanks everybody. Amazing. Mingle amongst yourselves. Buy these books. Spend at our vendors. And again, thank you so much, guys.
All right, I can't.
Hey, Mark, real quick.